Hey everyone, I'm back. We got a police chase. Out of LA. All right, let's watch it. It's over, but we can rewatch it because it was a good one. Okay, here we go.
And we're trying to stop it. Now, the original one, we don't know. We did get a good look inside the vehicle, just the driver, and apparently a nice big green bag in the passenger side. We also know that the vehicle is registered out of South Los Angeles, and there's a good possibility that's the direction we're headed. I got the map up there. That's the reason why I didn't give you any kind of information, but we are definitely in Pacoima on the 5 freeway. We've passed the 405. Did we pass the 405 split? I think we did. Yeah, we passed that 405 split already. Now, California Highway Patrol, they've got behind it. They've actually set up their little task force, it might be. These guys not playing around today. Now, they did bring out the spike strips, and we did hear that it was a confirmation that the driver hit the spike strips. But we don't see any flat tires. We don't see the vehicle did slow down. We're about 80 miles an hour right now, but they actually have a rolling blockade behind it, so they're going to slow the traffic behind the pursuit. But what can they do from in front of it? Nothing much right now. So the public might be a little bit at danger, but that vehicle seems to be pretty established. And as we've been looking at it, I can tell you it's got 4 solid tires, but the high speeds continue. And the original one, maybe the assignment desk can help you out, Sandy. But right now, we're just keeping an eye on it. Southbound 5, Arleta, and it's moving along pretty good. California Highway Patrol, they've got to figure out a way how to stop it.
Yeah, you see the black and whites behind it, Stu. Yeah, certainly not the time of year that we want this to happen because traffic has been so bad no matter what time of day. And so then you mix in a pursuit in there when people are going about their holiday time activities. And then there you go, a recipe for disaster, especially when you're talking about these high speeds. You were saying triple digits at one point. Still, we're seeing a little slower speeds right now, but as this car weaves in and out of traffic, it's always really disconcerting to see, especially now he's picking up speed a little bit on the 5 freeway. You asked about the original want, and we don't know here in our newsroom as of yet as well, because CHP not confirming anything in terms of what this pursuit originated as or why they started following this vehicle and this driver, but clearly a definite case of one person behind the vehicle right there, no passengers involved, as you were mentioning, and hopefully, this is not a stolen vehicle or anything like that, but we don't know at this point why CHP is following this guy, just knowing that, look, you see him smoking right there. He knows the black and whites are following him. Yeah. We got an eye on him, and 82 miles per hour right now going down the 5.
Going down to 582 miles an hour. I can't say I haven't done that in the past, but I didn't have California Highway Patrol right behind me. Sandy, we do have information what it originally wants. Melissa at the assignment desk making phone calls, getting it done. She said that apparently there was another roadblock, or they actually had stopped traffic somewhere on the 14 freeway, and this vehicle just decided, I'm not going to stop. So if this person has other warrants or any other problems, that was really not the move to make to get the attention of the California Highway Patrol. That's basically just throwing out a red flag like, hey, come and get me. So they did, and that's what is going on right now. And as you mentioned, that traffic, there was some points there when we were making our way over here that I was saying, if he stays on the 5, especially over by Los Feliz, they are going to get into some heavy traffic. And we saw some heavy traffic up in the Pacoima area. But it's always amazing to me how these vehicles just kind of make their own path. Sometimes it is because the California Highway Patrol or other law enforcement behind it with the lights and sirens and people doing what they're supposed to do. You hear those lights and sirens, you be predictable. Be predictable and make your way over to the right in the safest fashion you can. This vehicle right now making his way over to the right, but that's not safe at all. And again, the speeds, he's slowing down, but then he's speeding up. But anytime he gets so close to those cars, it just bothers me. It just bothers me because somebody innocent could get tangled up into this whatever negative vibes that this driver's putting out there. Now, we did see earlier on, he seems to be as relaxed, or trying to relax as much as he can. It seems to be just one guy inside the car and a lot of clothes. That was the other thing too. You got clothes hangers and clothes back there, and maybe he's doing some sort of move. But whatever I can tell you, right now he should just be pulling over. California Highway Patrol, they're not going to give up. And as long as this guy keeps running, it just puts so many other people in danger. And then you got the holiday season. And like you said, a lot of people out here just going about their business, trying to get the last minute stuff done. You just don't want to see anything tragic happen at all.
Stupid.
But the California Highway Patrol, these guys are trained professionals. They might have another trick up their sleeve. We'll keep an eye on it. But right now, looks like we're getting off the field.
Yeah, maybe he is pulling over. Maybe... I don't know. Maybe he's realizing that, hey, he's going to get caught one way or the other, right? Best to pull over. He definitely knows somebody's behind him, that he should be stopping, but he's not. So
let's see he just ran that red. He ran
another red. Okay, so another traffic violation right there. And
Sandy, I've had people ask me in the past, like, do they actually go after all those traffic violations? And I asked a couple of officers that had been in a couple of pursuits, and they tell me no. No, they don't. Sometimes they will actually even use news footage, probably Skyfox, and and actually keep an eye on the traffic violations. But there isn't anybody down there right now, basically writing it all down, keeping an eye on what's going on. Maybe this guy isn't familiar with pursuits because he's making his way over towards the Burbank Airport, thinking that maybe that's like LAX and we cannot follow them. They might have a little bit restrictions, but this is not LAX's type of deal. So we're probably going to be able to keep an eye on it, but definitely on Hollywood Boulevard or Hollywood Way in the Burbank area right now. It says San Fernando, but we're going to be getting into Burbank here in just a second. California Highway Patrol still right behind them, and I haven't heard a peep about them wanting to give this to somebody else. There you go. That's going to be Burbank Airport. And what is he doing? Making a U-turn?
Okay, here we go.
No. Oh,
and
there you go. There.
Okay.
Yep. That was like a pit.
Yep. I hope we don't lose your signal, Stu. You're in a little bit of interference right there, but you saw a pursuit leading to a pit maneuver by CHP on the surface streets right there in the Burbank area. That was Hollywood Way. If we could get his signal back up, we're working on that. But the initial one was a traffic violation, and there you see it right there. Let's see what's happening.
Okay, we're back.
Guns drawn, trying to tell the guy to come out.
Didn't miss anything. Yeah, they've been calling him to tell him to get out. You see some smoke right there. It seems like he's not giving up, and that is not what officers want to see. That smoke might be from the actual vehicle, but it also could be him trying to drive away. There you go. California Highway Patrol really boxing him in. That little car not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And, this type of defiant attitude is not helping the situation. Oh, you got hands up. So maybe somebody's changing their minds. But look at all the airbags that went off. So that car was hit pretty hard. Not that he didn't deserve it. They were trying to bring this thing to an end. You're keeping the public safe. That's the number one. Keeping that suspect safe. That is actually number 2 on their list. People do not realize that. But you can see some agitated, that he's a little agitated in there. Hands up. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Open the door, buddy. Get out of that car.
Well, we know he was smoking inside the car. We were watching him doing that. You could see as clear as day that he was smoking while he was driving and evading police. So we don't really see the smoke from our vantage point right here, but clearly that pit maneuver, there was no hesitation there. CHP wanted to put an end to this as that vehicle was making that U-turn on the residential street. They were like, hey, we're going to stop you right now, buddy.
They're going to help him out of the vehicle.
Yep.
There they go. They're actually approaching right now. They're trying. Come on. This is the thing. Boom, there we go. First swing.
Easy as that.
First swing. Here we go. We're going to help you out of that vehicle, sir. Clearly you're having some issues here. They're going to get that door open. There we go. That's the airbag. Looks like he is kind of self-extricating. Maybe not. There we go. There we go.
That was water bottle. That was a water bottle I saw. He's not coming out easily, Stu. He had that water bottle. I don't know what he was doing.
And it always baffles me. It's like, why not? I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? Anyways, law enforcement taking this guy into custody. You can see the cuffs going on. They already got the one officer did the code 4 sign, but they got to make sure. And of course, we got to pop open the trunk. My guess is going to be dirty laundry back there, but they are definitely looking to see what else could be inside that vehicle. California Highway Patrol helicopter arriving here on scene. A little late, guys, but you know what? They're way out of Fullerton. They had a long way to go to get here, but the guys on the ground, fantastic job, and bringing this to an end safely is the best word to use. And what a great move
right there. But and if anyone missed it in that move you were talking about, let's show people what happened at the end of this pursuit. It was a quick pursuit down the 5 freeway. There you see he gets off the freeway, tries to make a U-turn right here, and then boom, that pit maneuver. No joking around, making sure he gets pinned in. All the airbags explode, and then he's under arrest. Great work by the CHP. Definitely kind of making an example this holiday season, not to mess around, right, Stu? Be careful out there on the streets. There's a lot of traffic out there, a lot of people trying to spread holiday joy. You don't want to get caught up like this.
I'm from Iowa. We don't get stuff like this.
Definitely not. And again, we don't really know what the other reasons were, but basically he brought this all on himself. He ran through an area where they were stopping the freeway traffic. That's how we understand it. Basically made a red flag for himself, and then California Highway tried to pull him over, and that's how that pursuit started, ending here at the Burbank Airport.
Well, that's it. All right. Thanks, y'all, for joining me for this.
That's kind.
He's got his hazard lights on. Let me share this one. This guy's got to bring breaking news that a plane crash happened today, and Greg Biffle, he was a race car driver. He was named the Biff. He's an American professional stock car racer. He died in a plane crash today. So if you could just put his family in your thoughts and prayers, especially at this time of the year. I just hate to hear stuff. Probably really known because he's the 2002 NASCAR Busch Series, the Craftsman Truck Series, 2005, 2006 Southern 500, and the winner of the 2015-2016 Sprint Showdown winner. He was the Busch Series Rookie of the Year in 2001. So, wow. I think he must have retired because everything pretty much stopped, like in the 2005s. Oh, I guess his last win was in 2013, the Quicken Loans 400 in Michigan. About what they do. So I'm watching some breaking news. And they are saying that the suspect in the Brown mass shooting has been identified. And they think that teacher, the MIT professor, that's 1 hour away from Brown University, that the Brown University shooting and the MIT teacher shooting have ties together. So that's kind of sad. Oh shoot. I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted. We'll watch this latest update on the Brown University deadly shooting. And then President Trump is giving a announcement on the NASCAR driver that crashed his airplane. I think it was in Florida. I'm not sure. It could have been South Carolina too. I'll find out here real quick.
No, that's a great question. Through all of our field offices, we have 56 field offices throughout the United States, as well as legats abroad. And so the information that we have, once it goes into our data systems, we are sharing that information real time with all of our FBI field offices and the partners as well. And so that is a way in which we're making sure that whether that subject has left the state or even left the country, that we are using that full reach of the federal arm to track that individual down.
And a follow-up real quick for one of you.
So it is in Statesville, North Carolina, and there is among 7 unalived in Statesville plane crash. How terrible. Please keep everybody in your thoughts, please, during this time.
I understand that Brown has 1,200 cameras. Why? And that those images have been handed over to the investigation. Why have we not seen any of this footage? Wouldn't it help if the media or if the general public saw people walking through campus and just to get angles?
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that is footage of students running from the scene doesn't help advance identifying this person or this investigation.
Him walking into the building?
No, not him. I'm talking about video footage of students that were not harmed, other students hearing shots, running through a different part of the building. We have video footage of that. That doesn't help us identify this individual.
With respect to Attorney General, I think we could all agree that maybe, within the 24 hours ahead of that time, there is a lot of footage that could be gone through or controlled. The 1,200 cameras that you say there are in the school, why hasn't that just been released to the public?
Well, let me play devil's advocate. Would you like all of it?
Why not?
Well, because here's why. Because it doesn't tell us anything about who committed this crime yet. If we get a better image of who committed this crime, you'll have it. There is no effort to preclude the public, online investigators in the press, from getting to the result faster than we can. If you can identify this person faster than we can, have at it. But we are giving you the best evidence we can to identify this person. The FBI, with respect, cannot find a person we have not identified yet. The way we identify him is to focus on this person, exhaust our investigative resources to pull videotape so that we can get an image out there that the public may be able to identify. At the same time, exploiting other evidence to try to track this person in different ways, which has been going on for the last 72 hours. So, what does that look like? What that looks like is information coming in from the tip line. The team runs it to ground. They rely on other evidence, the flock cameras that the colonel referenced, other electronic data that Amanda's referring to, and you can rule that person in or out. When that person's is ruled out, you move on to the next one. The way the public helps us now is to help us identify this person, okay? But that's not the exclusive way we're going at it. But it does not advance our investigation to have reams of data out there that don't help identify the shooter. And we're confident of that.
My follow-up question just to that was as well is, we speak a lot about the public helping as well, and that the FBI is involved. But 5 days, is a person can get very far in 5 days. What other state police departments are helping you with this? And do you have any indication how far this person may have gotten in this time?
Oh, go ahead,
Yeah, no, I got it. So pretty much it's a great point, and that's something that we're considering. Obviously, he could be anywhere. You're right. And I think the fact that we're all here in this room and we're providing the info and it's being spread out through this nation, I would hope. I'm speaking to different chiefs. I've had the privilege to know a lot of them. We're exchanging info as we speak. We don't know, but we still don't know what the person is or who he is, right? And so we're going to continue to review, and then send out. And I just want to touch on that question because you do make a good point. If there's 1,200 cameras, right? How come we're not seeing it at all? But at the end of the day, we're looking at key video evidence to send out. It makes no sense to re-victimize students who went through that. That's not my job, and that my responsibility is to ensure that people are safe. It's no different than I'm asking the public to provide me with video footage for weeks. I don't want to know what's going on in their homes for weeks. I want to know if they can see a piece of evidence that is going to be helpful for us to progress in this investigation.
What do we know about the level of public access to Garrison Hallway? Is this a door that somebody from the shooter would have been able to walk in, or is this a place where you would have needed like swipe access to get in?
Certainly. Thanks for that question. Brown is no different than most colleges and universities that during daytime hours, there's open access to academic spaces. So that was the case on the day of the event.
So, question for Brown. There's some buildings on campus that have private or non-police security guards posted at the front entrance. Was there a security guard ever posted at the engineering building entrance? If so, were they there that day, and what did they do? And if not, why not?
So maybe I'll ask our chief of police to speak to that.
On that day, we did not have and do not have a security asset posted inside the building.
Is that atypical of a Saturday or in that particular building? How do you determine where security is posted, and is that under the purview of Brown Police?
That is typical for that academic space.
That there would not be a security personnel?
Correct.
There you go.
One for the colonel, one for the Mr. As far as the investigation goes, any updates on a possible motive here? And for the mayor, while I have you, we're getting towards Christmas time. Obviously, the suspect can get lots of different places, not just on campus there. What is your message to people coming into this area, seeing family who are concerned that this guy is still out?
Yes, so the motive is unknown at this time.
As we're, what are we, a week away from Christmas now? This only emphasizes the question that I think everyone's been asking, which is, are we safe in Providence right now? Which honestly is the hardest question that I keep getting asked. And whether it's the holidays or not, but with the holidays, we expect even more people to want to come home and celebrate with family and share the traditions that, are seared in all of our brains of holidays with our parents and loved ones. We can't lock down the city indefinitely. We can't. And I know this city. I know that they are tough. I know that they are resilient. I know that they have faced scary times before. And so we are doing everything possible to provide extra law enforcement, extra visibility, things to reassure confidence at a scary time. And it is a scary time here in the city. That's true at Christmas time. That was true when this started on Sunday morning, the first morning after. And so we are doing everything possible, but obviously families are going to have a conversation about what's right and what's best. But they should know that their city government is doing everything they know how. And thanks to the help of our friends, the governor and the Rhode Island State Police, our neighboring communities here in Rhode Island. For those of you who aren't from Rhode Island, this is a tight-knit place. And we have police officers from every corner of Rhode Island helping out in Providence right now. And so we are doing everything we can to reassure folks, to provide comfort, particularly as we expect will be even busier a week from now. And that is the best honest answer that I can give to that very difficult question.
We'll take a 2-minute break. You will not miss anything. More to come on Live Now from Fox.
I just don't know. It's crazy. Do you want to keep watching this or? Oh yeah, come on.
Build back all of the relationships. You do that in any case. And so you build a profile of your victims so you know who may have threatened them, what they may have said that might have caused somebody to react a certain way. So yeah, that work is ongoing in conjunction with all the other work we're doing. But from where I sit today, there's been no development of any evidence that suggests that that's what drove this shooter. That could change. But there's nothing that we have recovered or analyzed to date that suggests that it was specific person motivated. Again, could change, but we're 5 days.
Law enforcement and potentially Brown, but 5 days have passed. How is it possible that we still don't have a clear idea of who was in the classroom during the shooting?
5 days have passed. It could be 6 days. We were hoping that only 1 day passed. Unfortunately, investigations, as this nature of investigation, as intensive as it is going to take time. And it's going to take a lot of time to be able to interview, seize evidence, examine it, to come up with the right person. But as the general stated, a person is going to get caught. We're going to do our job, and we're not going to stop until we do. And so we're going to continue. It could be later, it could be tomorrow, but we're not stopping until we find them.
But surely there's a log or something of people entering that classroom in particular, no?
No, I'd be happy to speak to that. So at this time of year, we have final exams taking place. We also have study sessions taking place. That particular classroom, it was a study session. Had it been a final exam, we'd have a roster, we'd have handed it over. We know exactly who was in the room because everybody shows up for a final. The first study session, it's elective.
Ronaldo.
It's elective.
I have a question for you.
It's elective to turn out for a study session. So we don't know exactly what fraction of the overall roster turned out for a voluntary review
So
session.
there's no physical log, just to clarify?
Law enforcement is working to reconstruct that, but there would not be a formal log.
The camera in that building, they Brown put off because the sanctuary city law that we have, you don't want to record illegal immigrants, and you don't want to provide the footage to the FBI or immigration authority. One camera in that building, it come out from your detectives, they are friends of mine, they're angry at this investigation, that these people in Brown University put the camera off, they can identify that person. You imagine how the family want to go through? Tell the truth to the media here. Putting cameras off.
We heard from both the Brown Police Chief and the Provost at Brown, who have shared that they have been fully cooperative and been forthcoming with all data and evidence that they have. The City of Providence's experience is the same, which is that Brown has been entirely cooperative and collaborative and fully sharing with us. We will be back here tomorrow. Once again, if you are not on the press list and you would like to be updated, please see Camille. Otherwise, we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Yes, at 4.
We always got you covered here on Live Now from Fox. We'll take a 2-minute break and be back with so much more.
And standing up with Providence. The state police continues to be an incredible partner, and I thank the governor and Colonel Weaver for their partnership.
On Saturday night, the day of, we actually learned that this individual was in that neighborhood at around 10:30 in the morning. We also know in this profession that many criminals will case out an area weeks and days prior. And so it's important for us to ensure that we can have you look at that and help us. And the reason for that is because our officers, our agents, are looking at terabytes of data, and we're looking for a moment that is shorter than somebody taking a breath. It's incredible hard work to do that, and so we're asking the public to assist us with that.
That was the police chief right there of Providence Police. Again, 2 students died, 9 others wounded when a gunman opened fire in the engineering building on campus Saturday afternoon. You can see some of the memorials there that have been set up outside of the school for the victims who passed away. Again, we are working, of course, to learn more about the conditions of those surviving victims. 9 people wounded in the attack. And take another look here at that enhanced video that was released by investigators. Now, police on Saturday initially announced a suspect was in custody, but then corrected the statement to say no one was there. The next morning, investigators revealed they detained a person of interest, but later in the day, they explained that person was determined not to be the shooter, and that person was let go, leaving a search underway for the gunman. There's a lot to discuss here as the case does progress, so I do want to bring in Brian Higgins, the founder of Group 77 and a former police chief and director of public safety. Thank you so much, Brian, as always, for taking the time to be here with us.
Of course, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And first off, I do want to start by asking you, because we have this new quote unquote enhanced video that was released by the Providence Police Department on Tuesday. What stands out to you? What is it that people who are looking at this video need to be paying attention to?
So the technology today allows law enforcement to take camera video footage and enhance it to the point where the pixelation that creates the images are much clearer. So what we now have is a clear image of the outline of the person, a little better coloration. We also have a better understanding of how this person walks and moves about. As the police chief said earlier, he wants residents and businesses in the area to look back, not just on the day of the shooting, but weeks prior, to see if this person had set up a pattern. So this allows individuals who may have come across this person to say, oh, I know who that person is, or this is where I've seen him before.
When you get to this point here, as I mentioned, we're on day 5 of what some would call a manhunt, a search for a person of interest and essentially a suspect here. What are some of the investigative challenges in identifying and apprehending someone when you are 5 days in?
Well, it's the farther out you go, the more difficult it is to keep the trail, if you will, the investigation warm. What you have to do is continue to follow leads, but the farther out those leads are, you finally can investigate them to the full extent. If you have no other information, it's much more difficult to build a case. But at the same time, you have this technology that's out there, some of it you and I aren't even aware of, that will allow law enforcement to track this individual's movements. So as time goes on, yes, current leads may be coming to a conclusion, but hopefully law enforcement is acquiring more facts and more leads.
And what you're looking at is that surveillance video, again, enhanced. It's right there on the left-hand side of your screen. Police, as I mentioned, asking folks who live in that area, anywhere near the university, to check their surveillance cameras and essentially see if maybe they see something out of the ordinary or someone who looks like the person in those images, and provide that to police. Now, I also want to mention that we've learned a lot about the victims here. I do want to pop up their images for you for just a second to give you a look, because one of them is the vice president of the college Republicans there on campus. But we have learned from police, they say there's no evidence here that the victims were specifically targeted. How do investigators go about making that determination? I'm sure each case is kind of different, but how do they decide if someone was specifically targeted?
So it's multifaceted levels of this investigation. First and foremost are going to be eyewitness identification. Individuals who were in the room at the time the shooting occurred. If the shooter particularly identified these suspects, moved past others to shoot them, that would indicate they were targets. If they were just people moving about in a room and were struck with gunfire, then there isn't any indication that they were targeted. Now, as this investigation goes on, there may be more information that is uncovered, but what the police are saying is, based on the current evidence and information they have, they can't identify them as particular targets.
I want to pop up this statement as well. This is actually coming in from Brown University, and it brings up another topic that I want to discuss, because It says in the aftermath of the shooting, we've seen harmful doxing activity directed toward at least one member of the Brown University community. It's important to make clear that targeting individuals could do irreparable harm there. Accusations, speculation, and conspiracies we've seen on social media and in some news reports are irresponsible, harmful, and in some cases dangerous for the safety of individuals in our community. It is not unusual as a safety measure to take steps to protect an individual's safety when this kind of activity happens, including in regard to their online presence. As law enforcement officials stated clearly on Tuesday afternoon, if this individual's name had any relevance to the current investigation, they would be actively looking for this individual and providing information publicly. Now, that brings up, as I mentioned, another topic here, because you do have names that are released of, let's say, persons of interest. And again, it's important to note that Brown University did not specifically say that is who they're talking about. But when you have names released, when you have this information that's floating around on social media and is not relevant to the case, how does that make it more difficult for community members and also for police who are simply trying to work the investigation but now have something else to worry about?
Yeah, Josh, on several levels, this kind of muddies the water when it comes to the investigation. There are going to be at least questions. Law enforcement's going to be asked, did you check this person out? How much did you check them out? Even though law enforcement believes that they're not connected. They're always kind of justifying their actions. At the same time, Josh, law enforcement is going to follow the facts as they unfold. They may have enough resources to check out these ancillary investigative leads, if you will, or just claims, but it can hurt more the public participation. If the public thinks that law enforcement has already identified their suspect, they may not be so willing or energetic to share information they have already. The other issue is the safety of these people who are being identified online. If they haven't committed this crime, there are those who think they have. And we've seen examples of this, not always in crime situations, but people who are involved in innocuous events at sporting events and such, where they're identified online, and then a week later we find out that's not the person. In the meantime, their personal life has been completely turned upside down.
And we want to make sure that folks out there who are watching this are taking a close look at that surveillance video. Again, if you think you know who this person is, make sure that you do call Providence Police to get that information out there. Now, also want to pop this up on your screen coming in from FBI Boston on their social media. And as I mentioned here, they're trying to get those images out there. They say the FBI, in coordination with our partners there at the Providence Police Department and Rhode Island State Police, releasing an updated video timeline showing the movements of the person of interest in the mass shooting there at Brown University. My last question for you here, when you're talking about a big college campus that has a lot of students, we do know that a shelter-in-place order was in effect as all of this was unfolding there on Saturday. But after they believe there that they did get that person of interest in custody, the shelter-in-place order was lifted. It was never put back into place. But how do investigators, schools, everyone involved determine whether or not to reinstate a shelter-in-place or just leave it as is?
So, Josh, a shelter-in-place or lockdowns are meant to protect people during a shooting is occurring. Really, the ultimate goal is to get people away from the shooting, to get people away from an area that may be unsafe. So once that lockdown, that shelter in place is lifted, it's the goal of law enforcement to get those people out of the area where the incident occurred. It's also an ongoing investigation, which means evidence is still being collected or preserved at the scene. So the goal is to get people to a safe location. When you lock down, you're locking people down to prevent the shooter from getting to them until law enforcement can get to them and protect them. We want them out of the area. Now, I understand that there's been an increased law enforcement presence. Honestly, right now, this might be one of the safest places in Rhode Island because of the amount of law enforcement presence.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Brian Higgins, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and helping to break down all the latest information. Again, that surveillance video released. We could potentially get more today, as there have been those different releases of images and video pretty much on a daily basis here since all of this played out on campus.
All right, let's check. Beans, we're here. We might as well just keep going with the news. Let's check out the NASCAR driver guy. That's really sad.
So for those of you who are just joining us, we just were listening to a very brief news conference addressing this plane crash at the Statesville Airport. We do know that the plane involved in this crash is owned by NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, and not many new details were mentioned in this news conference.
Yeah, just that this crash happened at 10:15. The earlier timestamp we got was 10:20, so it is a bit earlier than we previously reported.
Just for everyone's information, I'm putting all the links to the news agencies that I'm watching in the description box.
There's a multi-agency response. Statesville Airport is closed. They are currently working to get the debris off the runway. News officials notably did not address any kind of speculation as far as who was on board. In fact, they did not even provide what the FAA has confirmed, which is that this tail number of this aircraft matches a plane owned by a company owned by former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle. As I said earlier, this is very difficult news, and we're all hoping that the rumor mill online is untrue. I just interviewed Greg Biffle back in September, and then again more recently with his charity work, the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Helene. He was such a pivotal person in literally taking duties upon himself to fly his private aircraft out to Western North Carolina to do rescues and to drop supplies. He rallied his friends in the area who are also civilian pilots to try to drop supplies and literally saved lives for 2 weeks working tirelessly. I have not heard from him today. I did speak with a friend of his who is closely tied in the aviation industry, but could not go on record with any kind of information about who was on board this aircraft and did not want to speculate. So I do not want to speculate either. Of course, I just wanted to provide some background because now you have heard and we've reported that this plane is connected to his company.
This is a very evolving story, as you heard from the officials in this news conference. They were saying that they're not giving any more information now, except for what we know that this call came in around 10:15. We do not know where the plane was coming from. They do say that the airport will be closed as they work to clean up the debris, and that multiple agencies responded to this call. The FAA has taken over this investigation, and it's going to take some time. They're going to be releasing out new information as the day unfolds, and that all any questions that anyone has can be directed towards city officials, but they did not give much more information than what we knew prior to the news conference.
Yeah, so the aviation community, as I mentioned moments ago, in the Statesville, Concord, Charlotte area in general, is very close-knit. A lot of the civilian and private pilots in the area know one another. They fly into and out of Statesville all the time. They fly into and out of Concord all the time. NASCAR has close ties to these airports and these pilots. Some NASCAR drivers are pilots, as Greg Biffle is, and as several of his friends are as well. So again, working to confirm this information. As we heard earlier, the Iredell County Sheriff's Office is saying that there are multiple deaths involved in this crash. So we are going to wrap up our coverage of this right now. Of course, we are asking all of these questions. We are going to take you back to your programming right now on CBS, and we will break in if there is any relevant information you need to know.
We don't want to do that. get struck by Ictamel.
Turning now to a story that we are continuing to follow, and I want to take a look at this. A social media post from a TMZ. It says LAPD releases Nick Reiner arrest photos.
Oh, we can check out the Nick Reiner.
I'm getting into the latest details now in the murders of Rob and Michelle Reiner, everything that happened with their son Nick Reiner being in court. He was in a full anti-suicide vest, and then also all the new information that I'm finding out about the timeline of what actually happened leading up to these murders, what time the murders may have happened, and how we can actually determine timing on all of that. I've got a great guest. Maureen's going to be on with me again, the former FBI agent who actually has really deep sources in LA. So I'm getting into all the latest in this episode. Brian Entin Investigates. Hey guys, so I'm going to go through all the latest developments in the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. There are new details that have been trickling out all day long. First of all, this is video from inside Nick Reiner's court appearance. You can see the judge. You can see his attorney, Alan Jackson, also in court. But there was no video feed of Nick Reiner, and we weren't sure before how this was going to work out. But it turns out there was not a shot of Nick Reiner. They didn't allow us to shoot Nick Reiner. He was in a full suicide prevention vest, and he just stood there and listened. And the vest was interesting. I mean, it basically went from up near his neck all the way down almost to his knees, and it didn't appear he really had any clothes on underneath the vest. So he was in the suicide prevention vest. The hearing was only a few minutes long, very, very short. Alan Jackson asked for a continuance, said that it was too early to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and then the judge set the next hearing for January 7th. This is what Reiner's attorney, Alan Jackson, said right after court when he came outside the courthouse.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just have a couple of quick words. First of all, and most importantly, this is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We ask that during this process you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves. So with that, we are set for January 7th for an arraignment. That's the next court date. And that's all I have to say at this point. There may be more at some other point, but today we're going to rest on where we stand procedurally, which is this was a continuance of arraignment. Nothing happened today substantively. We'll be back for an arraignment in the same department on the 7th of January. We'll see you then.
So just a reminder, Alan Jackson is a high-profile attorney who recently represented Karen Reed in Massachusetts. He's known to be a very, very good attorney. Everybody in LA knows him, and really all over the country now because of Karen Reed and so many other, Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein. He's represented a lot of well-known celebrity clients. He's also known to do his own investigation into cases, which is perhaps why we saw him outside the Reiner home yesterday. I remember we were out there, we saw him come by 2 different times. He went inside, and we don't know exactly why, but again, I'm told that he's known to sort of do his own detective work when he starts working on some of these criminal cases. Back to court, though. Again, very quick hearing. I think the main thing was that Nick Reiner was there. We saw him in a suicide vest, but again, we weren't able to show it on video. The whole suicide vest, though, thing, it could explain why he was not at his scheduled hearing yesterday. Remember, they had to push it back a day. There's some new details coming out about that, and there's also some new details coming out about what actually led up to the murders. According to the LA Times, Nick Reiner was living in a guest house on his parents' property, and his family had become increasingly concerned about his mental health in the last few weeks. But there's reporting now that nothing indicated Reiner would be capable of this kind of violence. That is what family friends are saying. It's not like his parents were worried that this was going to somehow escalate to this level of violence. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party on Saturday night, Nick went up to comedian Bill Hader and asked a series of strange questions, like, what's your name? What's your last name? Are you famous? It was apparently just awkward and strange. And Nick had also been asking other high-profile people at the same party similar questions. It remains unclear up until now when the Reiners were murdered. The New York Times is reporting on Sunday afternoon a massage therapist showed up at the house for an appointment with Rob and Michelle Reiner, and when no one answered at the gate, the Times is reporting that the therapist called the Reiner's daughter, Romy. She lives across the street, I was told, when I was out there, and she quickly showed up to the house, had to run across the street, and had a roommate with her. And that's when she went inside and found her father's body and found just the awful scene. The New York Times reports that Romy ran outside of the house. Her roommate then was waiting out there and called 911. And Romy did not see her mother's body in the house, but then later learned from paramedics outside that her mom was dead too. So just terrible to think about. Nick Reiner was arrested about 15 miles away. Still unclear exactly, 15 minutes away or so, still unclear exactly how police knew where he was. These are photos that the LAPD released taken when they took Nick into custody. And there's also this new surveillance video that was taken before Nick was arrested that shows him inside a gas station. I'm going to discuss this with my guest in a minute, what his demeanor could indicate there, but you can see him going into the store, and then you see him leaving the store. And again, we don't know the timeline of exactly when the Reiners were killed and when their son allegedly went to the hotel. Was it right after the murders? We don't know. We don't know exactly when he checked into the hotel in Santa Monica. We are told he used his own credit card and he used his own name for a one-night stay. It's now going to be up to the coroner to determine when the Reiners died and whether it was, late Saturday night, Sunday morning. My guest has a really, really interesting perspective on that coming up in a minute about how they determine that. Jake Reiner and Romy Reiner, Rob and Michelle's kids, they released a statement that I want to read to you here. Really, really sad. You got to imagine what the situation they're in right now, dealing with their brother and their parents being dead. It says, "Words cannot even begin to describe the unimaginable pain we are experiencing every moment of the day. The horrific and devastating loss of our parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, is something that no one should ever experience. They weren't just our parents, they were our best friends. We are grateful for the outpouring of condolences, kindness, and support we've received, not only from family and friends, but people from all walks of life. We now ask for respect and privacy, for speculation to be tempered with compassion and humanity, and for our parents to be remembered for the incredible lives they lived and the love they gave." So again, I think everybody's heart just goes out to them, and you think about the strange situation they're in now. Their parents are dead, their brother accused of the murder. Still a lot of questions about who's paying for the, high-powered, very expensive attorney. The statement is really just obviously really heartbreaking. I'm joined now by Maureen O'Connell, former FBI agent and also co-host with Jim Clemente of the podcast Best Case, Worst Case. It's good to see you again, Maureen. The medical examiner has come back and said that it was multiple sharp force injuries was the cause of death. What does that mean to you?
It means they were stabbed multiple times each, and that could also mean the throat was slashed and then then they were stabbed multiple times. It could mean anything along those lines.
What we heard initially was that the throat was slashed, but I guess
Right.
if they're saying multiple, could that mean, I guess the throat was slashed and then also other stab wounds, you think?
Right. It could be, his rage was such that he cut their throats, or let's say, talked about his dad first, cut his father's throat, and then, sort of, stopping the threat of his dad fighting back with him, and then went back and stabbed him multiple times in a fit of rage.
There's been some reports that they were stabbed in bed. And what would that mean? I mean, I guess would that mean premeditation, like you thought about it because the person was going to be asleep?
It's absolutely premeditation. And it's also attacking someone who is not in a position to defend themselves. I mean, is there a place that you feel more safe than snuggled in your bed, and then to be attacked like that? It's just beyond belief.
What do you think about they haven't released many details about the timeline, but where does your mind go with timeline here? I mean, do you think this happened right after the Conan O'Brien party? Like, how do you think this played out?
I would say it happened within hours of that Conan O'Brien party, within hours of them returning home, and he just couldn't take it that he was embarrassed again in front of people, and his father took the side of the people he was fighting with instead of taking his side, and he just got all lathered up. And he could have gone into his into the guest house first before he came back. I don't know. I had this sense initially that it happened in the kitchen, but now knowing that they had been dead for some time, it's making me think more and more that it was late at night after the party. Because we heard also, remember, Brian, we heard that the daughter couldn't get in touch with them for a while, so she went over there to see.
Yeah, and the new reporting today is that she saw her dad and then ran out, and it was the paramedics who later told her about her mom, which is just so sad to think about.
Unbelievable. And I'm wondering if that lady in the brown that we saw yesterday walking up and down, I wonder, is that her roommate?
I was wondering if that was some kind of assistant, because she didn't really look that emotional. I don't know. She kind of seemed like she was on a mission to me to go get stuff.
Me too.
So I kind of thought maybe that was like the lawyer's assistant or someone's assistant, but I have no idea. It was interesting to see that action outside the house, though.
Yeah.
In terms of an insanity defense, do you think that's what is being set up here?
Yes. And I think the first salvo was when they said he's on suicide watch. Why didn't he commit suicide before he committed a double homicide? I just think when you look at the videos of him and you hear a lot of the way he talks, yeah, there's mental health issues, but for him I know exactly where that gas station is that he walked to. For him to walk there, he doesn't look like he has a care in the world. And then he could have easily then walked all the way to that hotel. And then he gets to the hotel, and he has the presence of mind to put those sheets up on the window, which all my contacts at the hotels are telling me that's what people do when they're just planning a bender, like a 3-day bender on drugs. Lots of cocaine. I don't know why you would put sheets on the window for cocaine, but okay. And then take a shower because he didn't want to be uncomfortable with dried blood on him. So he took a nice shower. He understood that. He understood he had to create distance between him and the crimes. And then he decided it was time to go score some dope, in my opinion. So he took the metro in Santa Monica over near USC, got off, and, went into that convenience store probably after or maybe before he scored some dope, and he was getting ready.
All right, y'all, gather round because Monet Exchange from Sibling Rivalry is here with an announcement. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Google Gemini. Now listen, the girls over at Google said, Monet, tell the children, so I'm telling you. U.S. college students get Google Gemini's
going after him. I think that that was a brilliant move on the part of LAPD, and I'll tell you why. Because those narco guys, I worked narcotics for 19 years. They know exactly where to go. They know where these guys are slinging dope, and they know where this guy is going to go to get it. And the way they know that is because he's probably been arrested multiple times in certain very small areas when he's scoring dope, when he's, throughout his life, when he's been doing this stuff. So if you run someone's name in the system, you can find out, obviously, where they've been arrested, how long ago it was, who was with them, etc. So they can see, let's say he was arrested one time with a guy named John Doe, and John Doe slings dope on the corner of Florence and Normandy or whatever, and that's where they went to look for him, and sure enough, they found him, because they found him pretty quickly, considering he was on foot.
I was wondering how they would find him so quickly on foot like that, just on the side of the road. Do you think someone called it in?
Yeah, well, they figured, hey, every time we catch him, and I'm just guessing based on my personal experience working narcotics, they probably said, 3 out of the 10 times we arrested this guy, he was found right here in the same spot. So let's put a team over there. The other time he was right over there by USC, and on the other occasion he was getting off the metro. So they probably guessed he went, especially when they found out what hotel he was in. They knew he went to that hotel because he could take the metro, because his family said he didn't drive, or I guess his family friends told me he didn't drive as a general rule. So
that makes sense then that he would take the metro.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great way to get out of Dodge quickly.
Yeah. The reports of all the blood in the hotel room, it's gruesome to talk about, but I guess I'm just trying to understand, if the stabbing happened at their house, why would there be so much blood in the hotel?
Well, if he stabbed them without a winter jacket, without his jacket on, because we saw him wearing, those jacket things, whatever they were, he would have blood all over his clothing, and it would still be wet to a certain extent. And if he was, let's say, who knows, maybe he already had a little bit of dope on him, and he was laying on the bed, just getting high, enjoying a buzz, and rolling around or whatever, or he took his clothes off, threw them on the bed to take a shower, then he comes out, lays on the bed, and he's wet, and who knows how thorough of a shower he took, or to have blood on the linens could also mean the towels. So he could have walked in, washed his hands, grabbed a hand towel, which are usually white, and dried his hands off and arms, and then realized, I still have blood on my arms. I just washed my hands. I got to take a shower. I got to, whatever it is. And then if he doesn't take a thorough shower and he gets out, he may not realize how much blood he has in his hair, or he's got that thick black hair. He could have had way more blood in his hair than he thought, and maybe in washing his face, he just got his hair wet and didn't wash his hair because he was planning on going downtown anyways. And who wants to be out all night? He was homeless. He knows going out all night with a wet head of hair, you're going to freeze, and he may not want to check in anyplace else because he's on the run. So he may have just gotten his hair wet in the shower just from taking a general shower, and then realized there was hair all over it, or blood all over. It could have just been blood on the pillowcase from that. It could have been blood on a hand towel from that. Or he laid on the sheets to cop a buzz after he got out of the shower and he didn't do a good job. There's a lot of things. And then he took that top sheet, I believe it was a top sheet, and put it up over the windows.
Just to block people from seeing inside.
Block people from seeing inside, or they like the cocoon feeling. But they all have blackout curtains, so that's kind of weird, Yeah. Think of a hotel room that doesn't have blackout curtains. I can't think of one.
Do you think that he really thought he was going to get away with this, or was he just on a bender and not really thinking that clearly?
I don't know. I don't know him. I would say he realized he was in a world of hurt, because he was that little bit of distance wasn't enough. He just probably felt like he had to go to ground, and he would figure it out. But then he realized the only people that were really going to help him would be his parents, and that wasn't going to work anymore. Mm. And I did hear initially that he put his house up for to secure a bond but the family rejected that, but I haven't seen that corroborated anywhere.
Have you heard anything from your sources about the state of the bodies, like how long they may have been dead?
I just heard that it was a while. It was longer than originally thought. That's all I heard. So I don't know. That's not very definitive.
Can they tell though, like if it's been can they actually tell the difference between like 2, 4, 6, 8 hours?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And LA's got the greatest MEs, and the detectives are good. See, the blood will coagulate at a certain rate based on the temperature. The blood will have a thick, like the top of it will dry first. Even if blood is mixed together, it will just coagulate very nicely and in a very uniform way based on the conditions within the house, and that's humidity, heat. The floors could be colder, so all that is taken into account, and also the temperature of the liver is a great determinant factor. Also, lividity. They'll be able to see the blood will settle within the body and turn purple, yellow, green, whatever those colors are, depending on how long it's been there. That's one of the ways you can determine if, in fact, the bodies were moved later. So if you have a body that has a bunch of lividity on the back, but the victim is on its stomach, that body was moved. All the blood settled and it really settled into the body, and then it was flipped over onto its stomach, and at that point it was no longer pulsating through the system, so it's going to stay stuck in that situation.
In terms of DNA, is that not really going to be that helpful to prosecutors because he lived there?
No, it's going to be super duper helpful.
It will?
Absolutely.
But why? Because couldn't his defense just say, well, he lived there, of course his DNA is everywhere?
I'm talking about blood mixed in with the blood on scene. When you attack someone with a knife, unless it has a hilt on it, and for those that don't know what a hilt is, I'm looking to see if I have a knife with a hilt, and I do not. But a hilt is that it would be like that metal piece like this on a knife, and this hilt stops your hand from sliding forward onto the blade when you're in a fight, when you're in a knife fight. A K-bar knife has a hilt on it. That's the one that was used in the Idaho killings. That one had a hilt on it, but he still cut his hand, because when you're in a knife fight, there is a very good chance that you are going to cut yourself. He was probably fighting with his father. His father was a big, strong man. His mother looked like she was in great shape. They both did yoga all the time. It probably wasn't as easy as some might think, unless they were sound asleep. But even still, if he was stabbing them afterwards multiple times, there's a very good chance.
So y'all, I've been talking and forgot that I shut down the live and had to redo it. And I've been talking this whole time. Jeez.
That he cut himself. So now we have, even if we don't find the weapon, you'll have his blood and, let's say, his father's blood mixed together and coagulated together. It's not in a place where you could. So if there's let's say there's a puddle of blood and Alan Jackson is trying to say, oh, they came back and poured blood over it just like they did in the OJ case. That isn't what happens, because the first blood will have that coating on top as it begins to coagulate, and the blood will almost be in a separate layer. So if you have mixed blood mixed in with his mom's blood, and it's all in the same, it's all in the same puddle, let's say, there's no way you can say that he was not there, there's no way that you cannot say that he wasn't there and bleeding at the exact same time that those people died. And there's really only one reason that someone's going to be bleeding like that: when someone is being stabbed. And then the other reason it's going to be important is because there's a thing in forensics called voids. So if there's a big bloody battle, we're going to look at the shoe impressions or the foot impressions on the ground, because oftentimes the defense will say, oh, there was another person there. He just happened to be standing there and he was trying to defend his parents. Well, there's no footprints, no shoe impressions, and the blood pattern completely contradicts what you say, because the blood pattern will show over and over and over, cast off blood all over the floor, and it will only show their 3 footprints. If, let's say, they were all in the kitchen fighting, you'd be able to determine that it was just those 3 people in the kitchen fighting with the knife. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm wondering if
Well, that person might have just not walked through the blood too. I mean, maybe the person was conscious, you know, of where he's walking.
defense could be, though, if they were in the bed, could they say, well, he came home, he found them stabbed in the bed, freaked out, and you know, went on this drug bender because he's got all these issues, and went to the hotel and was just in a state of shock? I mean, you think that?
No, because I think they're going to find his blood too. And the other thing is, don't forget bloody fingerprints. Once he's in that battle, you could have Nick's fingerprints with his father's blood on the countertop, or Nick's fingers with his mother's blood and his father's blood on a countertop. That puts all 3 of them in the exact same location at the exact moment of the attack. It's indisputable. That's what I'm hoping for.
When you've worked cases with, you know, and this is going to be a strange family dynamic because he's got these siblings now, and he killed, or allegedly killed, their parents, but I don't know if they're still somewhat supportive of their brother, or I don't know, you know, because I have no idea. But how do you think that's going to work? I mean, are they going to, based on what you know,
it's going to be messy.
Are they going to come around and want to pay for the lawyer? Or like, how does it play out, do you think?
Absolutely not. Why would they? You know, because they might say, you know, some people might say, well, Michelle and Rob Reiner did everything they possibly could for their son, and I'm sure they would want their siblings to help him even now because he has mental illness. I don't know about that, and the reason I say that, Brian, is because my thought is this: if they could do that to their parents, they could do it to anyone, including their siblings or his nieces or nephews or anyone. And I don't think their parents would sacrifice one child for the other 2. And I don't see any way those 2 kids are ever going to come back from this. This is trauma, especially for Romy, the daughter. For both of them, but Romy saw it, so that was awful.
Yeah, terrible. As always, I appreciate Maureen for talking with me. She's always such an interesting, sort of just like has such an interesting take on all these things because her career for so long in the FBI and just how many people she knows in LA because that's where she was an FBI agent at the end of her career. So I appreciate her for talking with me. I'm going to obviously stay on top of everything that has to do with the Reiner murders. I'll keep you guys posted. And I'm going to start working also on the situation of Brown University now. So I'll have an episode on that coming up tomorrow because that story has just gotten crazy. More photos released of person of interest, still no arrests. Everybody's on edge. So I'll have more on Brown tomorrow, and I'll let you know if anything develops with the Reiner murders. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I think we're pretty much caught up on breaking news anyway. There really wasn't much on the Rebecca Parks. Unfortunately, they haven't found the baby. So I guess that'll be it for today. I won't go live unless maybe a police chase, or because that's what started this whole live right now was the police chase. So y'all have a good night. Thank you for being here. If you're watching the after stream, please like, share, and subscribe. I truly appreciate everyone's support. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.